One thing that you said last time when we talked that was interesting, you talked about people being tied to brands and expecting to have an ideology around what that's like to work for that brand. I don't know if you want to dive into that a little bit, just around kind of the new generation of how like people want to work.
Yeah, and I think even with a business and any consumer-facing experiential brand, whether it's Solidcore, SoulCycle, and there's so many fitness concepts out there now. Our business is community. Like, it's the workout, but it's the community in which we provide the workout in. And you can't build community without building connection and relationships. So it gets super tricky for folks when we're also a business. We're trying to operate underneath this umbrella of a business, but we're trying to foster relationship and community. And so it gets confusing. And so I also understand that from the employees' part, and our part too, of like where the line is drawn of this person's so great and nice, and then if the company outgrows them and we have to let them go, or they don't get a promotion and they care about this company so much and they've been here for so long and they left their corporate job and this is their whole identity. Like, it can be heartbreaking. So it's a very difficult business to run. And when I talk to a lot of my other peers in the space, it's the same thing of finding that balance of building community, but hammering home, we have to build community in the underneath the umbrella that we are a business. And we had a long talk with our employees a little over a month ago now, a month and a half ago, and we just hammered home, we are a business. We are a business. It's not a democracy. Everybody's not going to get a say in the decisions that we make. You're going to have to do things here that maybe you wouldn't, but that's any job. You're going to have to do your side work if you're a coach. You're going to have to take the trash out. And it's not an egalitarian relationship. There is a hierarchy there, and that the expectations of that, as long as everybody has the proper expectations, I think people get angry, frustrated, sad, hurt a lot when they have improper expectations of what the relationship is supposed to look like. So we are continuing to have that conversation with anybody new who starts, that we can care about you, and we absolutely do, and we're understanding and supportive, but we are not your family. We are not your partner. We are not your girlfriend, boyfriend. We are not your friend. We are not the government. We are, not a lot of these things. We are a business, and we have to operate underneath a business lens in everything that we do. Do you have any questions? So that people don't get hurt. And I think we could have done that sooner. It's one of the things I wish we would have done sooner.
Yeah. And it's understandable though too, especially as you're small and you're growing. Like, it's people, usually you're surrounding yourself with people you trust, and you usually have some sort of relationship with them. So I think it's something that most businesses struggle with, especially in the very early days as they're growing. And, I know, so Solidcore, you've had tremendous growth in the last 7 years. So you've mentioned, how many workout facilities you have, you're 70 plus 73 locations, I think you said now, across the country. So why do you think it was so widely adopted across the country, even by celebrities and, influencers like Michelle Obama? I know is a big supporter of yours. You had a little controversy around Ivanka Trump, but it seems like there's a lot of activity and movement and excitement for the brand itself.
I think, listen, the workout's incredible. And I mean, that's why I started the company, is because when I was in LA actually for work, for Back on My Feet years ago, I walked by this studio with it looked super LA and cool. And there were these machines in there. I'm like, I'm going to go take a class. This feels very LA. And I thought I was going to crush it because I'm an athlete. I work it all the time. I was running boot camps, whatever. And I got my butt kicked. And I'm like, I didn't know you could work out this way. I had no idea you could move so slow and so safely. And the next day I was sore all over my body, Stephanie, like my obliques, my abs. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the thing that I'd been looking for that I didn't even know existed. So I started taking class again at a Pilates studio in New York. And I was like, I think I have a different way to do this, because I'm so obsessed with community and building community. And I didn't feel like the places that I was going, they were more of a transactional workout. Like, this is a workout, that's it. And I'm like, there's something missing in here. No one's talking to each other. And so I felt this obligation of, I want as many women as possible to know that they can work out like this. They should feel as good as I do. My body started to change. I wasn't obsessing about food or how much I was working out. It was pretty incredible. And so the community combined with the intensity of the workout and the results of the workout that is what had propelled the company to grow. I mean, we had our second studio open in 3 months of the first one, and then just continued to build on the momentum. And we also got a little bit lucky with timing. Like, we were on the cusp of the boutique fitness craze. There was no other real boutique studio in DC. There's a couple spin concepts, but we got really lucky with the timing there, and then just continued to optimize the brand equity we were building and the word of mouth, and continue to deliver a fantastic experience combined with the product. And when people start to see the results from that, you're like, this is definitely not a fad. Nothing has made me look or feel this good. Like, so yeah, it was just pretty easy to continue to build off of that.
Yeah. I'll say though, as a Solidcore member, I had the same assumption. I'm like, oh, I'm an athlete. It's fine. I got this. It doesn't matter how many times I go. I still get my butt kicked, and there's still muscles where I'm like, where did this muscle come from? How am I sore here? Like, there's a muscle here. So, because you can always change the resistance. You can always, like, every instructor does it a little bit different. You're doing different movements and different orders. Like, it's just, I've never been somewhere where every single time I'm like, oh my gosh, how am I still sore? But I think it gives you a workout that I've never experienced before, where you're working muscle groups and things that you're just not used to doing in daily life. But I do like the intimacy of the, like the 15 sleds or whatever, where you do have a little closer connection with everyone.
Yeah, and exactly. And there are gonna be people who will listen to this and think like, oh, those two girls don't know what they're talking about. Like the men who will listen and be like, yeah, right. I don't care who you are. If you go to Solidcore and you're not like, that was pretty tough. Like, it's never happened. Not one time, like, ever, that I can think of somebody. I don't care if you're a pro athlete. I don't care if you're work out every day, if you're Ironman triathlon, you have not worked out like this. And you're missing so many parts of your muscles that haven't been activated in this way. So go try it.
We should do a bet with some pro athletes, get them in there and see how much they get their butts kicked in one of your sessions. Because
I remember taking class next to this athlete. He was a D1 basketball player, and it was a struggle bus, I tell you what. And we finally get to arms, and he was like, "Oh, thank God," and he like couldn't even hold his arms up, and it was like not even that much weight, and he was just like, "What is going on?" So it's always, and I love when I'm coaching and when we get guys come in like, oh, my girlfriend brought me here. And I'm like, all right, like, I get it. You don't think you're going to get a workout. I get it.
It's like, and I get there's different levels, right? But like going to like a light candlelight yoga, that's like, I think what people were expecting originally, like some of the people like I was going with or whatever. And Tom, who's in Minneapolis, it's just interesting to see. But when you're literally trying to do a lunge and you're shaking, I'm like, is this normal? Like, my legs are shaking uncontrollably. They're like, shaking's good. So it's like, okay. So yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Anyway, so now during the pandemic, I know you touched on it, but then you pivoted to start filming those workouts. Can you describe the process, like how things have been since the pandemic? Have you had other issues? Have you had to make a lot of shifts?
Yeah, I mean, listen, we're still in this pandemic, unfortunately, based on the Delta variant and still the number of unvaccinated, folks and the way that this virus is traveling. I mean, like I mentioned, I'm in LA right now, and there's a mask mandate that's back here. So I don't think we're out of the woods yet. But I really hope that we don't go back to some of the regulation that we had before. It was just, I was reflecting and reminiscing with my team because I kept 13 people on. We call this the skeleton crew, and we were working, and I didn't mind the work, right? But it was like 7 a.m. till whatever time at night. It was not weird. Like whatever time of day your phone would ring, it was fine. It was like, doesn't matter. We're in this crisis. But it just felt like we were constantly treading water and not going anywhere. We would solve one thing and then another issue would come up, and solve one thing, another issue would come up. And in 19 different states at the time, all those states had different approaches to COVID. And so we're trying to have some consistency in our brand and our teams and our communication. And it's like, we're doing things differently here versus here. And it was the first time that I felt that we were not operating cohesively. Because North Dakota, to speak about North Dakota, was very anti-masks, and we weren't going to say too bad, like we're going to force our views of whatever. We had to listen to on the ground and our coaches and figure out what people were comfortable with and how we were going to operate. And that's a different approach in New York versus Texas versus Florida versus Philadelphia. So that was very, very hard. And yeah, as an entrepreneur who thrives off of growth and building and being able to see the fruits of the labor of, we open another studio, revenue's growing, it was just like flat down flat, it's just like, oh, this is so painful. So yes, we pivoted to online and that went well. And I think the thing that we did differently that really benefited us is no one was doing this Zoom sort of accountability classes. Everybody was just like, as many people as possible can join, pay X. And so we really differentiated ourselves by saying like, there's going to be just as much as a class. I can see you, so I can tell you you're doing great, get on your toes, okay, we're doing this up downs and I can say your name. And you really felt like I've got to show up for class because Stephanie's going to know if I'm not there or not. And that went really, really well for us and it saved us. We produced a great amount of revenue for what it was. And then PPP happened and, we hired everybody back for 8 weeks. And then obviously we had to let people go again because it wasn't enough and we were still in it. So it was a yo-yo, and our team, oh my gosh, I'm so grateful for our team because they just stuck with us. And, even when we would have calls of like, we have no new news. I know it sucks. I know, we're still in our pay cuts. We're still on this, like just everything was somber.